But I was particularly touched yesterday listening to a very, very special individual. And I'm going to share with you as an American citizen, I've always viewed the beauty of the Native American Indian. And I've found their culture to be not simply fascinating, but beautiful and spiritual. And yesterday, I had the opportunity to listen to and speak with just a beautiful, beautiful soul and a beautiful person. And she demonstrates just how the nature and the beauty of what's around us, and how the Native American Indian has captured that, and they've been willing to share their beauty and their culture or wisdom with us. And Miss Willow Moon is here today, and I was so impressed by speaking with her a few minutes ago, and to know of the blood that courses in her veins of the Cherokee Indian tribe from Georgia, the Seminole Indians from Florida, the Navajo, Chippewa, and the Gansky. And she has quite a touching story to share with us today, and she's mustering the strength to come up. And TK, I don't know if maybe, why don't you come up with her and show some support and let her tell her story. So for those of you out there, this is Miss Willow Moon. You could find her out there, and please listen to her story, share her story, and help her with her efforts to make a change for our children. So Willow, thank you for being here. God bless you.
Give it up.
Welcome, my relatives. I have a testimony. I'm a survivor with a testimony about birth defects, unknown environmental defects. My ancestors had a baby in 1807, born with an unknown name environmental defect. The baby's unknown name was buried there in Florida, was removed from our settlement and put into the Williamton Cemetery as unknown name graves. In 1977, I gave birth to a baby with unknown named environmental defects. In 2007, my daughter gave birth to a baby with unknown named defects, Kash Jackson. Can you hear me? In Illinois. The Judge Gunnarsson of Illinois took my grandbaby away from us as I was raising her for 1 year, home with a feeding tube, heart surgery. She's been stolen from us and moved to Michigan. I've not seen her since '08. I took a beating from the police department in Peoria, Illinois. They beat me to the ground and took my grandbaby from me and called me a no-good grandmother as a Native American and took her from us, and I've not seen my granddaughter. She has an unknown named environmental defect, and I asked the doctor to research my history. He can have the medical records, and I can prove that it was linked back to something that America had given us. Our children on the villages and the Native American children have high rates of birth defects that has not been exposed today. High rates of suicide. There's unknown named environmental defects of our children, and also outside the United States, you see them all around. A lot of these children have been genetic studies of our children through the pharmaceutical companies, and they know about this. I had an opportunity to work in the 1970s at a place called Damar Homes in Indianapolis, Indiana. As I was working there, I was allowed to read the medical records of the patients there, and I was a developmental skill trainee. As I read the records, I was realizing there's insane asylums. And Eli Lilly Company in Indiana is a big pharmaceutical company. They're a big pharmaceutical company, and I read the records of the people of Central States Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I realized that these children that were in this place where I was working as a developmental skill on MT, that they all had birth defects from Eli Lilly's drugs. I know that Lilly's was a proximity cause of this, so I exposed them to the Indiana Department of Environment. Next thing I know, they went into Central States, Indiana, and shut the building down and removed all the patients that were mentally ill. All the children from Damar Homes, they let them go and put them out into the United States. We don't know where they're at today. They're lost children. This is a true story, people. We had insane asylums. And you can look up in Milledgeville, Georgia, over 60,000 bodies was found behind a state mental insane asylum. $60,000 in 1996 because I exposed what you done to my grandmother while she was there. She kept saying they're poisoning and killing us. They're giving us lobotomies and drilling holes in our head and poisoning us with things. In Illinois, the same way. It's all over. Illinois has a high rate of birth defects. Kash can vouch for that. And I went on the board of the Disability Rights of Illinois. But now I'm working my way to become a court-appointed advocate for the United States disability rights. That no judge in this United States will be allowed to take another child away underneath administrative laws. And I ask that Mr. Trump change the law on the Department of Children and Family Service, CPS, and human rights, civil rights, constitutional rights. They have a moral, ethical duty owed to us as citizens and voters. And they must do their jobs for us, or we hold them for judiciary accountability for what they've done. I suffer today as great-grandmother. I have great-grandchildren and grandmother. I have 10 grandchildren and 11 great-grandchildren. But they've been taken. Three of them have been taken from us, and we want them home. We want them home. I fought the state of Illinois. I won one case and brought Runamuck back. I call him Runamuck because when I filed a petition to the judge over my daughter smoking cannabis, now it's legal in Illinois, thank you, Illinois, but it's legal there. My daughter was smoking cannabis, and then I went to Judge Kelly, and he's there in Galena, Illinois. He told the lady from Family Services, he's in the hospital where they removed my grandson, Runamuck. They removed him from my daughter right from the hospital, stripped him, alienated him from his mama, from womb to birth, to out, go. And then we talked to Judge Kelly, and Judge Kelly told the foster mom, he said, bring the baby into the courthouse. We're going to have a recess. They had a recess, and he told the lady from the Department of Children and Family Services and the hospital that never in my life I ever heard where cannabis or marijuana harms a baby. Give the baby back to her. So I call my grandson Runamuck, and he chants with me when we go to the powwows, and he learned to dance with his Gigi. Calls me Gigi, gangsta granny. And he tells him that's who I am to him, and he loves his Gigi, and he's my favorite, but we want Kayla home, Kash. I want my granddaughter home, and Kash can tell you about war syndromes and mustard gases and things that we're exposed. Tony can tell you about the water and how polluted it is today, rivers going in cornfields and things, and all it just says, y'all work with me as I work with Kash in Illinois, because I do have a home in Illinois. I am a voter there, so I have a home in Florida, and I have a home in Kentucky, and I also have 2 homes in Indiana. My mother just passed. And so I have places I can go and people I can see like Tony and Kash and who are all y'all out there if you meet and greet with me. Take me up for a few days. I'll be all right. But I'm just thankful that, Carlos, you allowed me to speak today. My honor, my blessings goes out to all of you, our grandfather, our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, aunts, uncles, all family, and mainly, most important, is our children. Our children must become home and let loose to this bondage this government has put them in. Wado, pita.
Yeah, let me just say a few things, about Willow and the lessons. If we don't learn our lessons of history, because number one, I know as a child, I knew about some of the atrocities that occurred to Native Americans. I knew about the Trail of Tears, but we don't truly know. You know what I mean? It's hard to convey in words damage that's been done over hundreds of years. It's very hard to convey in words what you're feeling and what you're hurting. And I know growing up, where I grew up in Louisiana, I didn't grow up near a reservation or a large indigenous population. And so I was very ignorant to the ways of Native Americans. But you know what I had to do? I had to listen to the words from my mother that were instilled in her by God, I believe, because they both pressed me to do it. But when I went out to Standing Rock, North Dakota, and stood alongside the Standing Rock Sioux tribe out there, I did so because what I saw unfolding in front of me, it tore my heart up. It tore my heart apart. That these are my fellow Americans being treated like this. And whether or not I agreed with a pipeline, I didn't have enough knowledge at the time about the pipeline and environmental impact statements and the Army Corps of Engineers and all these other things. I didn't have enough knowledge about that. What I did know, though, is that I saw an elderly woman who was standing peacefully and praying, and I watched as either a private security or what appeared to be a police officer walk up and bear spray, pepper spray, the elderly woman while she's standing there all by herself praying. And it was that moment that I witnessed that moved me to action, that said, my mother is right. God is right. I need to go to Standing Rock, North Dakota. And I went. Much like what was used on Native Americans for hundreds of years has been used here. They've used the same tactic. That tactic is fear. The same tactic that they used in slavery to keep slaves from running away. Taking their children, utilizing their children against them as weapons to bind somebody in emotional bondage to their control. That's absolutely slavery. It's slavery without the chains, because they use that fear to keep you bound to their control about what they want you or that they say that you can or cannot do. I'm here to tell you, women like Willow Moon is going to help us to break those chains. And I'll tell you what, Illinois, we're going to have a nice, long, constructive conversation about Native Americans in Illinois. Because one thing that I would love to see, nothing more I would love to see, is that, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, Willow, but it's my understanding that the majority of the Native American population during the Trail of Tears was taken to Oklahoma, and that's where many of them currently reside. I would love nothing more than to have Native Americans welcomed home back to Illinois. Because that's where they belong, right? You never feel at home until you return home. And we always know, I mean, we can say home is where the heart is, but you might know more about it than what I do, because, well, I'm a gypsy at heart and I travel everywhere. So home is just wherever I lay down. But, you know, that the natives that were displaced from my state, from our state, they're a part of who we are. They're part of our history. And we can learn so much. And that's what I did in Standing Rock, North Dakota. Had I not went to Standing Rock, North Dakota, I wouldn't be standing alongside Willow Moon. I wouldn't know about the Indian Child Welfare Act. I wouldn't know about the countless Native American children trafficked into state care, trafficked into foster care. Gave me a much better understanding and knowledge about the federal financial incentives. But it also opened my eyes up to so much more. It opened my eyes up to the intrinsic beauty and heart of Native people. It culturally, it really, they taught me so much. And just the gentle spirits that I saw out in Standing Rock. Despite everything that they were enduring, they really modeled for me what it is to fight, but to fight back in peace. Because when they could have fought back, when they could have used force, they did not. They still stood there peacefully, the same way that Martin Luther King Jr. did. And they took it, and they took it, and they took it, and they've been taking it for 500 years. And it's time that we stood with Willow Moon and other Native Americans. Illinois, me and Willow Moon are coming home here pretty soon. Here's Carlos Rivera. I got a barbecue I gotta go to. Love you guys.
Hey, I wanted to say I agree with what he said. I was amazed when I saw the Indians coming together, because what I witnessed there myself was children that were very respectful of their parents. They were not they have not been victimized by their environment, and very appreciative people. And there's over 500 tribes in America that have been pretty much laying low. There's a whole lot more Indians in America than what I realized. And also, all the way to the point of the Indian massacre that happened on Thanksgiving. There's so many things that I didn't learn in school. I don't understand why they made it sound like it was a peaceful deal. When Thanksgiving came along, there was a major Indian massacre. So many things that I am learning, and I plan to learn more. But anyways, just wanted to say that the Indian culture, they're not mean. They're very peaceful people that do not deserve to be labeled as savages.
Thank you, Willow. Thank you so much. was a beautiful experience to speak to Willow. So thank you for sharing with us. I tend to watch people my whole life and just try to learn as much as I can. Kind of just seems to be an intuitive thing. And I watched before with Willow, and it made me think about the privilege I had as a pediatrician to be chosen to care for people's children, which was, I always said that you could take anybody and they really could care less about what physician they go to when they're sick. They just want to feel better and move on with their business. But what I always knew as a pediatrician was that a woman will choose her obstetrician with great care, and they'll spend more effort and care in choosing their pediatrician. And I always was grateful for that blessing that I had to care for people's children. And it was just such a wonderful privilege to see such beautiful children of every nationality, every creed, every color. And I think of all the children that Willow is trying to help, not just her own family, but the children of the tribes of the bloodline that she shares. Tony has always been right there at the front to fight for people and fight for their rights, and a huge advocate for the rights of the indigenous natives of this country that we owe so much to. They have been wronged so terribly by this country, and there's so many of us who feel for you, and not just feel for you, that we'll stand with you and we'll make an effort to do for the indigenous and American natives what we owe them as family, as brothers and sisters of this great earth. So Willow, thank you for everything. Thank you for everything.